All right, we're back on One True Podcast. Alongside me, as always, is Mr. John Werner. How are you doing, Johnny?
Bryce, I really like the way you presented my title.
Got to respect your elders.
I am definitely an elder. I will not dispute that.
And joining us this week, we're happy to have Chris Williams of KWTX TV here in Waco. Chris has been with Channel 10 now almost a year, and before that spent a couple of years in Nebraska working there. But one of the reasons we had him on, he's from Utah. So Chris, thanks for hopping on with us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on. Always fun chatting with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so guys, let's talk a little Baylor football first. After stumbling in Stillwater, the Bears got back on track last weekend against West Virginia, 45-20. Pretty impressive performance, honestly. We understand that the Mountaineers are not as good as Oklahoma State.
And they're better than Kansas.
They are better than Kansas. And of course, playing at home makes a difference too. But, what impressed you guys the most about Baylor's performance, and where did they kind of improve the most from, Stillwater to, that West Virginia game? Chris, I'll start with you.
To be honest, I was a little relieved. Being in Stillwater, it felt, the play calling, everyone's talked about it, obviously, and it felt like, I wondered, do they just not feel comfortable doing drop back pass with Gary? I mean, they have talent at wide receiver. Do they not feel comfortable with him in those one-on-one situations? So to go play West Virginia, do a little more of the standard drop back pass where it's not just fake the handoff here, throw to this guy, where it's a little more Gary, scan the field. I still feel like he's a little late on some of those throws, and that's just going to get better. But it was just refreshing to see that he can do that, and that a defense can't just line up and say, okay, we'll play one-on-one on the outside and fill the box with players, because this offense showed that they can beat that if you try it.
How about you, John?
I'm going to say the pass rush. They got 6 sacks against West Virginia. They only had 6 sacks coming into the game in 5 games. So, and obviously Apu Eka. Ika?
I think Ika.
I think it's Ika. Apu Ika.
Well, we should go with the guy who's on TV.
He's a Salt Lake guy. So
okay, that's
right.
Went
to high school just 10 minutes from me. I played quite a few guys like him. So
okay. Well, anyway, he got 2 sacks. He didn't have any coming into the game, and really just a combination of good defensive line pressure, some blitzes, and that's a really good sign for them, because they just haven't put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks coming in. So yeah, that's something they could really build on.
Yeah, I'm actually writing about the positive pass rush this week. The story will be online later today as we record this podcast and in tomorrow's paper. One of the things I thought that was interesting that Dave Aranda mentioned was that it really had a lot more to do with stopping the run. He talked about the fact that they were able to stop the run allowed guys to run free to the quarterback, and that made a difference in that pass rush. And it was easily the best pass rush they've had in the very short Dave Aranda era, and really, the best in a long time, maybe since they had a pretty good guy named James Lynch back there, Johnny.
Yeah, he was decent.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. So, obviously this week a future Big 12 opponent comes to town in BYU. Cougars are coming off their first loss of the year against Boise State. As such, they dropped several spots in that AP poll down to 19. But they're still a quality opponent for Baylor. How do you guys see this matchup? And do you agree with Las Vegas? I haven't looked at the latest line, but I know Baylor was favored at least at the outset. Do you agree that Baylor should be favored in this one?
Yeah, I do. Playing at home. Um, really, BYU didn't play very well last week. So, Coach Aranda thinks they're going to be really fired up. They had 4 turnovers in a 26-17 loss to Boise. I think it's going to be a really physical game. I think BYU is going to be kind of like Iowa State and just the physicality. They're going to bring Tyler Algier. He's a tough dude. He's a really good running back, but like Dave said, he plays like a linebacker. And and their quarterback Jaron Hall he's really versatile. He can do a lot of things. So I think it's gonna be a really good game. But I think Baylor's got more speed, and I think that might make the difference.
Yeah, I like the Bears as well. I almost feel like BYU will have more of a spark having lost this weekend. I would have liked the Bears maybe a little more if they hadn't just lost to Boise State. But I texted, so a buddy of mine was a D lineman there. Last year was his last season. But I texted him yesterday because I wanted to get an idea, what is Coach Sataki like after a loss? And it's interesting because it's similar to what you would hear about Aranda. And I'll read it so I don't mess his words up. But he said, Kalani always focuses on the team and the attitude first. So it's looking at what went wrong and then their approach in those situations and kind of how they reacted in those situations. And so that kind of worries me a little bit because that's how Aranda is. And we saw how Baylor came out a lot more fired up the next week. And then this last line, he said, Coach Sataki is the epitome of passion, and he knows how to get the team to feel that same passion. So they're going to be fired up. They're excited. I watched that press conference a little. All the players and coach talked about how they're excited to be playing in Texas, to be playing against a team that will be a later conference rival. So I feel like that makes it a little closer, but I do still like the Bears in this one.
Yeah, so Chris, we make our picks John writes a picks column that runs in every Friday's paper, and then my picks don't show up till Saturday, so I have till Friday to make this pick. I'm not sure who I'm taking quite yet. I think it's going to be a good game, and it'll be very interesting to me to see the reception that BYU gets at McLane Stadium. As a future Big 12 team, I feel like they're going to be warmly received among the Baylor fans. I feel like there's probably going to be a pretty good BYU contingent in the house. I know they have a lot of alums, all over the country, including in Texas, but I think it'll be a much, much different reception than the Longhorns get 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of love this week. There's going to be a lot of haters in 2 weeks.
No doubt. Well, Chris, as we mentioned, you did grow up in Salt Lake, and what a beautiful place, incidentally.
Yes.
You mentioned to me that you went to BYU football camps growing up, right?
Oh yeah, every year. Look forward to it every summer, going and staying in the dorms. And it was Bronco Mendenhall at the time, but it was just a blast going down there and playing with those guys.
Yeah. So you have some insight into just, how Utah views BYU football. Where does it sort of rank in Utah's sporting passions? And is it more or less than the passion for the Utah Jazz?
I think passion-wise, I think it's more than the Jazz. The Jazz have, what's nice for them is it's the only thing that Utahns are united over. The Utah BYU rivalry really splits, but the passion there is so big. I mean, BYU, I don't know if people realize it's a school that kids grow up dreaming of playing there. They have their Ty Detmer Halloween jersey that they wore when they were in, elementary school. And there's kids who they're picking BYU over schools like USC and schools like Oregon because it's where they want to go. And then it's also has a little bit of that, Baylor, A&M, the legacy type thing where, my grandpa's dad's mom went to BYU and I'm the 6th generation to go there. And so there's definitely passion. There's love. I think I read the other day, there's like 17 current players on the roster whose dads played at BYU before.
Wow.
So it is, they love it there, the fans. That's why it was a little surprising to see them lose at Lavelle Edwards because, you go to Provo, it's BYU flags in front of every single house. Everyone's wearing the all blue for the game. So it was a little surprising, but yeah, this fan base is the real deal.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like they were the biggest brand name out there that wasn't already attached with a conference. I mean, obviously Notre Dame, you know,
Yeah.
but BYU, I mean, was the school that I think really was sort of the gem of these four that the Big 12 are adding. I mean, and so pretty good get there for the Big 12. Speaking of the conference, we have two undefeated teams still left. I feel like Oklahoma is not so much of a surprise, maybe a little bit surprising that they haven't played better, honestly. And then, you know, maybe a little bit more of a surprise for Oklahoma State. This week, OSU travels to Austin to play Texas, which is still hanging in that top 25 poll after blowing a big lead in that Red River game. We were all following it after the Baylor game. So Texas should be desperate for a win in this one. Who do you feel like wins this game? And, you know, does the winner have the inside track to maybe a meeting with the Sooners in that Big 12 title game later this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas here. I think they've got a lot of motivation. I think Oklahoma State, they've played a pretty favorable schedule so far. And I just don't have a lot of faith in Spencer Sanders. I just think he's really erratic at quarterback. You know, you saw him throw 3 interceptions against Baylor. Baylor had taken advantage of those interceptions, they probably would have won. So, yeah, I think Texas is going to come out really hot.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texas too. And I also think it's going to be a comfortable Texas win. I think it would have been that way regardless. But as for, you know, how that sets them up for the rest of the season, I think a Texas win just blows open the conference. I think Oklahoma State can lose that game and still very well be playing in AT&T Stadium in December or late November. I'm not sure the exact date on it right now. I think, you know, Baylor fans, as much as it might hurt, should be rooting for Texas because I think it opens the doors for the Bears if they can beat the Horns in 2 weeks, and then that puts them back in the equation. Then I think Iowa State, they've kind of were so talked about all summer, and now no one's talking about them. But a Texas win on Saturday puts them right back in the equation. They could very well be with a rematch with OU from last year's Big 12 title playing again this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I was not overly impressed with Oklahoma State in that game in Stillwater that Baylor played. I mean, you know, they won the game, they did what they had to do, but to me, that was the ultimate game of two teams going, here, you win it. No, here, you win it. And nobody wanted it, you know? Yeah. I mean, it was just, they were not sharp. Spencer Sanders certainly is prone to some turnovers. Now, Texas's defense can get gashed. I mean, they showed that in that Oklahoma game. But they do have some playmakers, and you know, Bijan Robinson, you know, with a big game against Oklahoma State, could certainly thrust himself right back to the forefront of that, maybe that Heisman talk again. I feel like there's going to be some running backs in the finalists for the Heisman. So be an interesting game, but I'm with you guys. I feel like Texas probably wins this one at home. Longhorns are very, you know, up and down to say the least. So it is homecoming week here in Waco for Baylor. And I thought a fun little question that we could kind of finish on is so, you know, we each all went to our own various colleges. Johnny is a Texas State alum back when they were known as what, John?
Southwest Texas.
Southwest Texas. And Chris, you went to Chapman, is that right?
I did, yep, in Southern California.
Yeah, played football there, correct?
Yes.
Very good.
What position did you play, Chris?
I was a defensive back. I ended up playing safety my junior and senior year.
Okay.
I've got a safety.
I'll try not to get you mad. You might ram me.
I've got a safety on the Midway JV team, Chris. I'll need you to give him some instruction.
Yeah, I like that.
But so my question is this: if you were heading back to your home college for homecoming, and you were riding on a parade float like we'll see on Saturday in that famous Baylor homecoming parade, what would the theme of your float be? What captures your college experience? So whichever guy wants to start first with this one.
I'll start because I have a feeling John's answer is going to be better than mine, so I don't want to have to follow him. It was our school's first ever conference championship my freshman year. And then we won the second one my senior year. So probably, conference championship game. I want to point out, and I told Coach Aranda this at media days, but his alma mater, Cal Lu, was in our conference, and we went 4-0 against Cal Lu. So I made sure he knew that. But a lesser known accomplishment of mine is that I'm a 3-time beer Olympic champion in college. So I'm not going to explain what that is because it's probably even worse than what you're expecting. But my team was the first to ever three-peat. So either way, there's going to be a lot of beer and trophies.
Beer Olympics, right?
Beer Olympics. Yeah, it's a lot of events and a lot of beer, basically. So,
Chris, I have a new respect for you now.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So what I'm envisioning on this parade float is a giant beer stein.
Okay.
And bookends that are holding the beer stein because you started with the conference championship, you ended with the conference championship.
I might have to make this a thing. I'm going to reach out to my old coach, see if we can get this happening. That's great. Yeah.
And then written on the beer stein is 4-0 versus Cal Lu.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. All right,
I like that a lot.
See if you can top that, John.
Boy, I don't know about that. Well, I go so far back. We used Underwood typewriters up at the journalism department was up at Old Main, which is like the highest point on campus. So it's quite a hike to get there. So I was pretty worn out by the time I actually started writing stories. But I'd be like hammering away on an old Underwood typewriter. Probably a real messy desk because I made so many mistakes typing. And and I still hammer away like I'm still on one of those Underwoods, and I lose like a key or two every year.
Yes, you do. You do.
So it's hard to get out of that habit. But that was definitely a different era. We didn't even have like any kind of computers. So like when I was at a road game or whatever, this is my first 3 years out of school. We wrote out longhand and dictated it to somebody in the office.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's how old I am. I'm a fossil.
So basically everybody on your float would have like long flowing white beards is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I think you're getting the picture, Bryce.
Yeah. All right. So I attended Oklahoma Baptist University, where we did not compete in the beer Olympics.
No.
That said, so when I was thinking about this, I was like, what would my float be? And all I really just kept coming back to was just dudes laying on the couch, dudes, drafting fantasy football teams and fantasy basketball teams, like staying up till 1 a.m. watching Sports Center. I can imagine like Dude Lebowski just being part of the float. It took me a while to sort of like get serious about college. I got put on academic probation.
Nice.
Yes. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should actually, like study. This isn't high school. So I could just envision lots of dudes, lots of pizza, I
mean, that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I think it would be a great time. So there you go. I'm not promising anyone on our viewers and listeners that we'll see these floats on Saturday in the Baylor homecoming parade, but that would be cool.
What should I expect? This is my first homecoming at McLane. I went way back in the Floyd Casey days, but what should I expect on Saturday?
Oh my gosh, the parade is really something, parades are parades, but this one is like legit. They claim it's the oldest homecoming parade in the country, and it's a really good time, and they do a good job with those floats. So you know, if you want to get up early, it's worth watching. I mean, you know,
How early are we talking?
what time does that thing start, John? Maybe 8:39 in the morning.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's been a while since I've been to one.
What?
I'm usually cutting some Z's.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun though. They're fun. It's worth seeing. So, I mean, they have a bonfire Friday night. That's another big thing. So,
Okay.
anyway, well, Chris, thanks for hopping on with us, and we appreciate it. We'll see you out there on Saturday.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris.